Good afternoon, everyone. So today's session three, for today's day three, session three, uh, would be delivered by uh, Dr. Srisha Malayil, a research associate, Center for Sustainable Technologies, IISc Bangalore, on the topic multiple product recovery from anaerobic digestion of agro residues and leafy biomass. So I'll just brief up her biodata. She has done her BTech, sorry, Bachelor of Engineering in Biotechnology from Acharya Institute of Technology, Bangalore, from the year 2003 to 2008. And she has done her PhD and MSc in Engineering from Center for Sustainable Technologies, Indian Institute of Science, under the supervision of Dr. H.N. Chanakya, and her thesis title is Valorization of Residual Lignocelluloses from Anaerobic Digesters through Product Recovery. She had been awarded PhD on 2nd July 2018, and for her thesis, the thesis was being awarded Amulya and Vimala Reddy Award in the field of sustainable development, a best thesis award. Uh, and also coming to publications, she has 14 journal publications and 21 conference publications on solid waste management. Coming to process and technologies developed by her from 2008 to current till date, she has more than 10 years of experience from Center for Sustainable Technologies, IISc, for plug flow type anaerobic digesters for converting biodegradable fraction of municipal solid waste and other biomass residue to biogas and value added products. So this technology is already installed at various locations in India, Maldives, and also Africa. Anaerobic digesters for converting various biomass residues such as banana leaf, rachis, pseudostem, arecanut husk, sisal leaf, hemp, and flax to fiber, biogas, and compost. Value addition to anaerobic compost by converting it as substrate for mushroom cultivation. So this technology is already installed in India as well as in Maldives. Use of biogas digester liquid as nutrient supplement for mushroom cultivation and precursor for fungal enzyme production. So this technology is installed in India and Maldives. Fungal enzyme cocktail for biomass pretreatment for biogas and bioethanol industry. Then anaerobic digesters for converting fat, oil, grease, fatberg to biogas with enzyme pretreatment. Then anaerobic digesters for treating and converting chicken hatchery waste to biogas. Coming to her work experience, from 2018 till date, she is working as co-founder and also technical head for BioN Sustainable Solutions Private Limited. So what happens there is R&D on anaerobic digestion and biogas recovery from various substrates such as MSW, agro residues, and organic industrial effluents such as tobacco, leaf processing waste, sugarcane bagasse, hatchery waste, etc. They design biogas plants of various capacities, 5 kg per D feeding capacity, suitable for households to any number of tons per day for various substrates. They analyze biogas and fertilizer recovery data from functional biogas plants and advise design changes for optimal methane recovery. Create multiple value-added products from organic waste through anaerobic digestion route. They prepare proposals, grants, awards, and fundings from government agencies and technical manuscript for scientists and collaborators. Coming to her research experience from May 2018 to May 2020, she has worked as postdoctoral fellow from Center for Sustainable Technologies, IAC, again under Dr. H.N. Chanakya sir. So they used to develop a process for conversion of solid and liquid waste to value-added products. They developed a process for delignification of rice straw using Pleurotus SPP for bioethanol production. They deployed lignin residue leftover after ethanol production for generation of lignin degrading enzymes such as lacase and uh, peroxidase. They develop and deploy novel instrumentation techniques and experimental methodologies to understand lignin degradation in biomass substrates for conversion to value-added products. They process, analyze, and present experimental data, including the application of computer analysis to interpret experimental data for rice straw pretreatment. They prepare reports, manuscripts, proposals, and again, technical manuals for use by other scientists, funding agency, and also collaborators. They collaborate in the department of new research proposals and new scientific initiatives and carry out collaborative research with research associates, scientists, and students. So this is about her biodata. Uh, I once again thank you for accepting our invitation in such a short time, ma'am. Uh, on behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, MSRIT, I heartfully welcome you to this particular session. And the entire virtual stage is all yours, ma'am. You can start your talk.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'll just share my
You
present.
can start your video also. Yeah, ma'am. You're visible now.
Yeah, so
Yeah. I have made you co-host so that you would be able to, yeah.
what I'll do is in this part, I will try to present first the mostly the science and technology behind how we kind of developed multiple products through anaerobic digestion, considering leaf biomass, maybe some solid. One second, I can't make this full
Full
screen.
screen.
Yeah, just try it 1 second. Yeah, I hope it's you can view
Yes,
it.
ma'am. We can
Yeah,
see it. It's in full
yeah.
screen mode.
Yeah, so I'll do this in two parts. So the first part I'll focus on probably the science and engineering on how we have developed this multiple products through anaerobic digestion, and I will also take you through how the leafy biomass or any biomass residue or agricultural residue that's available today can be converted to multiple value-added products through anaerobic digestion. In the second part, with this science and engineering theory, I'll show you how we have solved various waste treatment options for multiple industries. So I'll take you through some two, three industries where we have given the solution for some difficult to treat waste biomass. So, when we actually look at biomass as such, the main problem, as we all know, whether it is composting, anaerobic digestion, or anything, is the amount of lignin material in the biomass. The lignin is supposed to be recalcitrant, and that is why when we look at any leafy biomass, we can see that whether it's composting or anaerobic digestion, we probably can get a maximum only 60% degradation, and the rest 40%, which is the lignin, does not get degraded. And if you look at composting, at least you have a chance of degrading at least 20 to 30% of the lignin that is present. And that is what we call as a humus or that is left behind after digestion, which is usually used as a soil conditioner and which adds carbon to the soil. But when we look at lignin in terms of anaerobic digestion, it is always considered recalcitrant because it's very difficult to degrade under anaerobic conditions, because mostly the anaerobic bacteria does not possess any of the lignin degrading enzymes. So here in this part of the study, what we have done is we have tried to look at classify lignin based on the molecular weight of it. So less than 1 kilodalton we have classified as low, 1 to 3 medium molecular weight lignin, and high molecular weight lignins. And based on this molecular weight, we have seen how this lignin actually degrades, or what is the life cycle of lignin in a biogas plant or anaerobic digester, and how this can be tweaked so that we can get some multiple value added products along the process. So lignin, I'm not going to get into the chemistry of it. It's a basically it's a what is cyclic hydrocarbon, and that is major reason why none of the microorganisms can the anaerobic microorganisms can degrade it. But when we look at the quantity of it, every biomass feedstock will contain 15 to 20% lignin. The main purpose why a lignin is present in a biomass is for two reasons. One is so that the bacteria or fungus that is present in the environment is not able to degrade it. And second, it is also used for giving strength to the material, to the leaf. So I'll come to the structure of a leaf. So when we look at a microscopic structure of a leaf, this is how it actually looks. So you have these green color cellulose fibers, and then you have a matrix of hemicellulose and lignin, which is actually found on the cellulose fibers. This is the major concept, or this is what the entire world is running behind right now. How you can extract the cellulose so that you can convert it to solid and liquid fuels. So the main research that is going on even in the field of liquid fuel is how can you remove this lignin and hemicellulose so that you get the pure cellulose. Now this cellulose, when we recover it, we can look into making multiple products like ethanol if, in case of liquid fuels, and in case of gaseous fuels, you can look at biogas and even hydrogen also. So the major challenge here is to degrade this hemicellulose and lignin and separate these cellulosic fibers so that you can use it for multiple value added products. Basically, when we look at aerobic microorganisms, the entire research was focused earlier in the 80s and probably from 50s to 80s on looking at how fungus can degrade lignin. And among all the microorganisms that studied so far, only fungus is having all the enzymes that is can degrade lignin. And when we look at bacteria does not possess more than two lignin degrading enzymes. So one of the now how we started the study in our lab in IISc was when we were looking at the degradation pattern of various substrates. So we were looking at something like banana peel, teak leaf, and paper and all that for how whether it can be converted to biogas. So we were looking at the what is it called structural changes as well as what's happening to the components like cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin during anaerobic digestion. We were doing the study for multiple substrates or feedstocks, and we realized that some amount of lignin is actually lost, and it is not some amount. Even in case of what you can see in the graph here, the banana peel, you can actually see more than 90% lignin degradation. So we were quite confused on this, and we were seeing, oh, is it actually possible to do that? Because the entire world has actually told that lignin cannot be degraded under anaerobic conditions. So we did multiple studies to check whether we are doing something wrong or it's actually happening. So we got something like this data doing multiple trials with more than 3 to 4 replicates, and we found we have got the same data, and that lignin is actually being degraded. So the next thing was to find the life cycle, how or what is happening to the lignin in it in case of the plant. So when we did that to study that and come up with a theory saying that what can we do with the lignin. So lignin is something which is very important to us, important to the soil, because if it is not added back to the soil, you cannot retain most of the nutrients in the soil. So when we look at farming or any other thing, lignin is a very important part to the soil. So the whole process when we were studying, we saw that using a biogas plant, basically this what you can see here is the L, M, and high molecular weight lignin. So when we put it into a plug flow, PFR is nothing but a plug flow type biogas plant. How you can recover this lignin, whether the lignin is actually getting converted to biogas, if getting converted to biogas, how much percentage, if it is coming out in the digester liquid, or if it is coming out in the residue. If it is coming out in the residue, can we use this high molecular weight lignin for something other than just fertilizer? So with this idea, we came up with some multiple products, that is fiber and mushrooms, which I'll just take you in detail into all the processes, how this happens. So in order to study, since we already found out that lignin, a part of the complex lignin that is found in the plant biomass, is getting degraded, the first important aspect was to prove whether actual lignin, when given as a single molecule, can be degraded by the bacteria. So we did some experiments. We chose some what is it called, lignin metabolic products, like single dilignin or single lignin compounds and all that. And we saw that most of the cases, what happens is, yes, the bacteria is doing something. So when you look at the first graph here, cinnamaldehyde, which is a common thing which is found in cinnamon, is a lignin compound. So we gave that. We can see that initially when I put it in the liquid, that is for the into the biogas plant, there was no change. And then there was, because most of these lignin compounds are insoluble in water. So for what the bacteria was trying to do, the bacteria was trying to solubilize some amount initially, and then the degradation process. So I've made this graph in this particular way that you can see the black dots, they are the solubilization part. And then if there is a degradation, then there is a loss of the compound. So we did some kind of studies, and we found that yes, it is possible. So we also did ferulic acid, vanillin. Then the next part was to try a two lignin, I mean dilignol, where you have two ring structures. So we did ABTS, and also for a multiple ring structure, we used tannic acid. And in all the cases, we found that yes, lignin is getting degraded. I'm not going into the chemistry aspect of it because I know this is a mechanical group here. So we will not go into the chemistry of it, but it is possible. So when we found that when we have given pure lignin compounds to the bacteria, yes, it is getting degraded. So what happens if you give lignin that is extracted from a plant biomass to the bacteria? So we did some experiments. We extracted lignin from monocot, dicot, and gymnosperm biomass. We we kind of classified this because lignin is different in monocot, dicot, and even in gymnosperms. So here again, we found the same pattern. So what was happening is that initially there was a solubilization of the lignin, then degradation followed by solubilization and degradation. So this is happening because the bacteria was trying to maintain its own health, because more than certain grams per liter, the solubilized product becomes toxic to the bacteria. So in that case, it was trying to maintain this non-toxic levels. That's why there was a phase of degradation followed, sorry, solubilization followed by degradation. So some of the results that we got from this study was, yes, anaerobic bacteria can degrade lignin, and whether it is given as a pure source or whether it's given as a source from the leaf biomass. And it did not matter whether it's a single ring compound, double ring compound, or multiple ring compound, everything was degraded by the bacteria. So in the second part of the study, we tried to see how we can give the direct leaf itself to the bacteria and see how it was degrading. So for that, we chose some. Here I've just shown you some 5 dicot leaves, some 4 monocots, and some 5 gymnosperms. And again, we checked which one was degrading faster, and then we realized the dicot lignin is more susceptible to degradation, followed by monocots and then gymnosperms. We also did some microscopic studies. So it's, see, the microscopic study was done because we were not sure whether this a part of the leaf itself is getting cut from the entire structure and in the liquid. So we might, when we take it, we might not know whether it's actual degradation or whether some part of the leaf itself is going off. So in order to study that, we took some microscopic images. And what you see on the left hand side is the 0 day to 30th day. So I kind of took the microscopic images every ninth day to see what's happening. So this is something, what you're saying is a dicot leaf, and in this you can see that actually the structure is not getting changed. Only the tissue that is adhering to the cellulosic mass is getting degraded. This again confirms that the leaf itself was not lost in the process, but yes, there is digestion and then there is degradation of lignin, and this lignin mostly constitute towards the um, cell walls and cell wall phenolics and all that, because as you see, your cellulosic fibers remain intact in all the leaves that we have studied. This is again the digestion of or degradation of monocot. Now, what's the difference between a monocot leaf and a dicot leaf is that in dicot, there is no parallel arrangement of the cellulose fibers. Here, you see there's no parallel arrangement of the cellulose fibers. But when you come to the monocot, you can see this parallel arrangement. Now, there's an interesting fact which we studied and which we published, and we got a lot of appreciation for this work, because when we look at the monocot digestion, you can see that the parallel between the parallel cellulosic fibers, you can see the the tissue material, and only this was getting degraded by the bacteria. When you look at paddy straw, when you come to the last part, you can see that your entire cellulose fibers can be retained when you can control this study. So controlling the study and using monocot biomass, we understood that we can actually extract fibers, natural fibers, using this process by in fact tweaking the process. So that's what I'm coming up to. So if you have biomass like banana stem, rachis, sisal, hemp, any for that matter, any monocot biomass, and if you digest it in a biogas plant, you have to have some control conditions. The control condition is nothing but your retention time. Retention time is nothing but how much time that you're keeping your substrate inside the reactor. So based on that, we did some study and we found out some optimum retention times for various substrates so that you get this fibers. What you see down here is the fiber that's extracted from uh, banana leaves. Like this, we have extracted fibers from more than 10-15 substrates, and these fibers can be used for making bags, can be used for making a lot of natural products. You can even look at making fiber bags which can replace plastics and all that. So here I've showed you some pictures of not only banana leaf but banana stem, pineapple leaf picture, and arecanut husk fiber. So as you see in this process, it's not only we are trying to extract fiber. Fiber is just a byproduct of the process. You're using a biogas plant, and your aim is to get biogas. But getting along with biogas, you are also getting this fiber, which is a byproduct. And I've given you some data over here which tells you what is the optimum retention time to get these fibers from most of the feedstocks, how much biogas you can recover, and how much fiber. Along with biogas and fiber, you also get some amount of compost. So we also studied this, as I explained to you before. One of the important aspect, or one of the important conclusions that we got out of the study was bacteria is selectively degrading only the cementing walls between the cellulosic microfibers, so that the fibers are separating, and that is how we get this nice looking fibers without doing any chemical treatment or mechanical pre-treatment. So we also tried to see whether lignin can be used as a marker to control the process, and we found out that for every uh, one second. Yeah, so for every gram of fiber that you recover, you need to get approximately something between 0.01 to 0.06 grams loss of lignin. Okay, in case of monocots, we have seen that you can use this for fiber recovery, and how lignin is helping us as a marker to get this fiber out and all that. Now, what happens when you give dicot leaves? What other products can you convert? That's the study that we did here. So we gave some dicot leaves, and we found out that we, of course, since there's no parallel arrangement of the cellulose fibers, it's not possible to get fiber from a dicot leaf. So the residue that was we got, we tried to mix it with some agricultural residue and try to grow mushrooms on it. So why we did this was adding residue from a biogas plant could potentially increase your yield. And this is because most of your nitrogen, phosphorus, and all these elements that's required for a fungus to grow is present in the digester, residue, and the liquid. And in the anaerobic process, as we all know, only the carbon is get forming a cycle where the carbon is being converted to gas, but the rest of your nutrients is present or is present in the form of digestible residue and liquid. So when we supplement this, we can actually have a higher yield, and we can also reduce the process time. So here I've just showed you some stages of it. These are stages of how the mushroom grow: spawning, fruiting body, and first flush. And by doing this addition of this mixture, that is the residue that's coming out after digesting a dicot leaf, we can actually increase the yield. So here what this graph tells you, the yellow is the yield of some Pleurotus florida, and the other one is Flagellatus. This is nothing but two species of this um, mushroom that we have studied. So we could potentially get a yield of somewhere around 2 to 2.5 kgs per kg of the paddy straw or any other substrate that we have used. So here we have seen that, okay, fine, we can use the digestate in the form of getting mushrooms. What about the liquid? We have some amount of liquid that's coming out. So the liquid, what we did was we tried to spray it on these bags to see what is the effect on the growth of mushrooms. So when we spray these on the bags, we again got a much higher yield. So we could actually get around 600 times, 6 times the higher yield when we supplied this digester liquid. So this mushrooms or this Pleurotes species is known to accumulate heavy metals. So, as we all know, some amount of heavy metal comes into the digester liquid because when we are digesting food waste or plant waste, some amount of heavy metals comes into it. So, we also did a study because this is an edible mushroom and we want to be sure whether there is some heavy metal uptake by the mushroom. We realized that this just graph tells you that there was even though you're spraying the biogas digester liquid, there was no heavy metal uptake and it was all under or much below the acceptable range. So the one more thing that we try to understand is whether we can use this biogas digester liquid, which has a lot of this low molecular weight lignin present in it, to activate some lignin degrading enzymes by the fungus. So what we did was, since we are already spraying this digester liquid, which we get from the biogas plant, we tried to recover the liquid from it and checked whether any enzymes can be recovered. So I mean, we have done a lot of enzymes, but I'm not taking you entirely into it. I'm just trying to show you two enzymes, which is mostly important, the most important lignin degrading enzymes, such as lactase and peroxidase. So with this, that is with spraying of this liquid, we kind of did a study to find out whether we can get some good amount of this lignin degrading enzymes, and if we are getting, when is that time? Is it during your spawning, or sorry, after your spawning, or is it during your mycelial network formation, first flush, second flush, third flush? During what time are you getting the highest activity? And we also tried some few species, and we can see that, as you see here, you can get a very good lactase production by substituting or by giving the biogas digester liquid. And why we are getting this? Because the liquid has a lot of these low molecular weight lignins, which acts as a trigger to the um, mushroom species to yield this lactase and peroxidase activity. So this is about the science and part of it. So I'll just take you next to the how we have used this knowledge to help some industries. I hope my screen is seen. Is my screen? Can you view my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so how I'll show you how this process of how the study helped us to solve some problems that's faced by the farming industry and also some other industries. So this is the biogas plant or biomethanation plant that we are talking about. How, and the entire study, last presentation, as I showed you, the entire study is based on this kind of a biogas plant. So when you look at it in a commercial terms, this is a very low cost one. There's no maintenance, and you can use it for a variety of feedstocks like food waste, agro residues, and it has a very low area footprint. Again, there's no pre-processing of feedstock. Pre-processing means we are not making any chutney, or we are not adding any water, pulverizing or anything. Whatever your waste it is, you're feeding directly into this biogas plants. And it can be built for any number of sizes, and you also get a very good yield of biogas. We are talking about 85 to 90% yield of the theoretical gas yield. So if you're talking about 1 ton of waste, approximately you get around 60 meter cube of biogas. And this is nothing but equivalent to 30 kg LPG. Along with that, you get some 200 kgs of compost and some 500 liters of liquid, digester liquid. Again, this liquid only is what we try to spray to the mushrooms to get the enhanced yields. So we have already seen that with the digester residue, we can get mushrooms and the fiber in terms of when we digest monocot leaf. So we also did a study what are the other products you can get. So when you look at the first one onto your left hand side, the surplus biogas. So what can you do if you have excess biogas? So the excess biogas can also be used as a grain fumigant. Fumigant in the sense in silos, grain silos where you store your grain. If you fumigate with biogas, then you can actually kill the weevils and all that. So we did this experiment and we found out that you can actually store the grains for more than for up to 2 years without even loss of even 1% grains. Again, this can be used for a lot of pico power, auto fuels, power. I mean, since you're all mechanical, must be very well adversed with the SOFC, solid oxide fuel cells and all that. So this excess biogas can be used as a material for SOFCs. And the digester liquid, again, the liquid that comes out, we already saw mushroom cultivation. This can be used as a pest repellent. Again, because of its nutrient content, we can use it for cultivation of algae and also some amount of aquaculture. And the residue, we already saw the enzyme cocktail. We can see that it can delignify straw, which can be used for ethanol industry. Vermicompost, compost, again, the material that comes out from the dicot, you can use it for rooting medium. And the lignin that is we can use it because lignin formaldehyde is a known glue or gum, which is biodegradable. So you can make it for using lignin formaldehyde. Okay, so this is one substrate or one industry that we did. This is nothing but a sugarcane industry. So in a sugarcane industry, what happens is around you'll get
Excuse me,
around
madam, your
yeah.
slides are not moving.
Is it moving now? Can you see?
No, madam. Still, it is in first slide. Yeah, I think you are not put in slideshow mode.
It is in slideshow mode, but can you see it now? The second slide.
Now you are changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So coming to the sugarcane industry, when we look at it in the
So
farm,
better, madam, you change into presentation mode.
is it changing now?
No, no. Oh, it's a slide is changing, but it is not in the presentation mode.
So I've clicked it on the presentation mode, but I don't know why it's not changing. So I think I'll have to go like this with the slides. Is it changing now?
Okay, fine now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so when we look at the sugarcane industry, for every hectare of sugarcane that we have, you get around approximately 80 tons of sugarcane. And 65% is the cane, and around 35% is trash. Trash is nothing but the leaves of the sugarcane. Okay. So the cane, again, if you look at it, that is going to the producing the sugar and all that. But the trash, that is the 35% of the leaves that comes out, you can put it to a biomethanation plant. You can get biogas around 1680 meter cube. I'm talking now everything in terms of 1 hectare of land, how much of trash is being generated, how much of biogas. So you get approximately 1680 meter cube of biogas. This can be, since it's a large scale production, you can convert it to CNG and CO2. That is nothing but you separate the methane and carbon dioxide from a biogas. Again, the compost, you'll get around 11 tons per hectare of compost. And that compost, as I already showed you, we can convert it to mushroom. So you get around approximately 4.2 tons of mushroom per hectare, which is an extra income for the farmers. And when we look at the economic analysis, you can see that from the compost, the farmer would get an extra 44,000 rupees per hectare. And from the mushroom per hectare, he would get an additional income of 2,10,000. And from compressed biogas and CNG, you'll get approximately CNG worth of 22,264 and carbon dioxide worth of 21,500. So the farm level value addition, when you just incorporate a biomethanation, and the total extra income that a farmer can generate would be approximately 2,97,764, which would increase your overall sustainability and factor. Now, again, also when we look at the sugarcane industry level, this is what we saw at the farm level. Now we come to the industry level. In the industry, when you juice your sugarcane, you have something like the bagasse that is left. So around 80 tons per hectare of sugarcane would yield around 28 tons of bagasse. And this bagasse, using the uh, technology that I showed you before, while with the spraying of the digester liquid, you can actually get some enzymes, and that you can delignify or remove the lignin of the bagasse. And this delignified bagasse can be used for what is it called, the ethanol industry. That is nothing but making 2G ethanol, bioethanol. And the delignified biomass can be, again, as I showed you earlier, used for making enzymes, like how I showed you the lactase and peroxidase enzyme. So when we look at this in the industry level, a sugarcane industry has the potential to increase its income from delignified biomass, which is around 84,000. Again, some enzyme recovery of around a lakh. So the total income at farm, again, at sorry, this is industry level, would be 1,84,000 per hectare. So when we look at the total value added products, when you look at the farm level, the farmer can increase his income from compost and mushroom cultivation. Also, the farmer will have access to some compressed biogas for running engines, vehicles, etc. Even his agricultural farms and all that. And if you look at in industry, what at the sugarcane industry, now what was wasted, the bagasse that was wasted, you're delignifying the bagasse and using it for ethanol production. You're also trying to use this bagasse for enzyme cultivation. You can also look at getting some fibers and other material also from this, which can be used for making multiple value added products. Next industry that I would be talking to you is about tobacco waste industry. So we kind of had a project with ITC Bangalore. You all know the ITC tobacco factory, which is the largest on the airport road. So the tobacco leaf, when you process it, there's a lot of rejects and there's a lot of material that comes out when the cigarette is made, and that has a lot of it's an environmental issue because the nicotine content in it. So when you dump it somewhere, the nicotine starts leaching into the soil and causes a lot of issues. So they had come to us asking whether anything can be done with tobacco waste. Now, other than considering this nicotine in the material, tobacco is also a leaf. So we thought, how can we convert it to some multiple value added products? Again, when we look at tobacco, India is the third largest producer of tobacco. And for if you look at one tobacco leaf, around 50 to 55% of that leaf is discarded as rejects. I'll show you what are the different rejects that you get from a tobacco industry. So, and which is stock and a lot of other things. So when people were looking at a lot of treatment options like composting, but the issue with composting is, as I told you earlier, you'll have a lot of nicotine leaching and issues. Again, another one was incineration, but incineration does not yield any value to you. You don't have any financial benefit of any sort if you do incineration, other than you'll have to spend a lot of money on power and getting it burned. The one thing that what farmers were doing is directly discarding this in the open field, which was again causing air pollution and a lot of tobacco spreading disease. So you know this is a very common disease, the tobacco mosaic virus, and causes a lot of disease. So when you leave this in the open, it also causes some amount of diseases. So what when we looked at literature showed us that some useful compounds can be extracted from the rejects like solanisol and nicotine. But all these is an expensive process, and we wanted to do something which is very what environment friendly and would yield some additional income for both farmer and even ITC, the industry. And we're looking at some process to do that. So what are the challenges and advantages when we look at tobacco? The challenge, as I already explained, nicotine content. Again, tobacco leaf is something which has a high lignin content and very not so easy to degrade under anaerobic conditions, and even particle size and moisture content. So I'll show, as I told you, I'll show you what are the different kind of particles that you get. So you don't have a uniform particle size, or it's not in a powder form. There are a lot of different parts of the leaf. Some parts are high in lignin, some parts are low in lignin. So that also kind of poses a challenge. See, advantages, yes, if you do it right, you can get some clean fuel. You can inactivate tobacco mosaic virus. Now, how do you do it? Because there's no oxygen in an anaerobic condition or in a biogas plant, this tobacco mosaic virus becomes inactive. So can also literally control a disease causing environment. And again, you can get some fertilizer out of it. So this is what I was talking about. When you process a tobacco leaf, these are the 5 different types of waste that is generated during the process. Sand waste, this is nothing but a very fine powder that is got, and that comes in one of the final stages. Rat tail waste, again, when rat tail waste is mostly got when you actually process the tobacco to get nothing but a liquid nicotine. I don't know how familiar everyone is. There's something called as vape or vape cigarettes that's available, but India has banned the use of it, so there's no literal sale of it in India. But abroad, it's quite a common thing. So they use a liquid nicotine. So when you extract that, what is remaining? A lot of it is remaining. That is called the rat tail waste. Rattle mix is nothing but the leaf that you have has a stalk below the leaf, and that is cut before processing the leaf. That is the rattle mix. Then you have a lot of this ends of the leaf that is cut. That is called the cutter waste. And then you have, after you, as I already told you, this rattle waste and wet waste is nothing but when you extract the nicotine out, what is remaining is your wet waste. So these are typical components that you get out of a tobacco processing industry, and it is very difficult to handle this waste because of its nicotine content, and also because of the tobacco mosaic virus and probability of causing a disease. So we analyze these
Excuse me,
substances.
ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you make it full screen, ma'am?
See, when I do it full screen, you're not able to see the changes in the. Can you see the slide changed?
No, ma'am.
Yeah. So that is the problem, and I don't know why it's happening. I'm sorry.
Madam, please press F5.
Uh, the problem is I'm using a Mac Apple. Okay, so I don't have that option here.
It's okay, ma'am. You can continue. Thank
Ma'am,
you.
play button is there. Slideshow play button is there.
Yeah, I'm clicking on that. So you can see, see, I'm clicking on it, but the issue is it's not changing the slides.
It's
It's
okay,
okay,
ma'am. You
ma'am.
can continue.
So this is the, as I was explaining, type of waste. We kind of analyze what is the TS and VS. No, TS is nothing but that solid content in the material. It's called total solids, and volatile solids is nothing but what is a percentage of this matter that can be actually converted to biogas. So when we look at TS, TS is 90% and VS is 87%. That means to say there is some 3 to 4% of ash or other material that cannot be converted to biogas. So when we look at this, one of the major factors that we look at in a substrate while analyzing it for biogas is the VS to TS ratio. So if we have a VS to TS ratio between 92 to 96, we can 92 to 98 is what we say. We can say it's suitable for biogas production. So the next challenge is, will the bacteria can stand the nicotine content of it, or whether the nicotine content in the substrate cause a toxic effect on the bacteria. So we did some um, uh, uh, experiments to find out whether this can be converted to biogas, and we saw that these residue is a very good substrate for making biogas, and you can actually get around 400 to 500 liters per kg of material that you're using, and the nicotine did not act as an inhibitor to the anaerobic bacteria. So we also did some studies. What is the maximum tolerance level of the bacteria? And to do so, we had to try different substrate to inoculum ratios. So we did something like 0.5%, 1%, 2%. And we found that 1%, that is 1% substrate to the bacterial inoculum ratio, was best suited for converting um, tobacco waste to biogas. So this is nothing but the graph showing you different substrates, which I already showed you in the slide earlier, how much of gas can be generated on all these material. So the conclusion that we get is all the substrates exhibited a gas yield somewhere between 300 to 500 ml per gram, or 300 to 500 liters per kg of the material that we use. And the maximum biogas we achieved was in the rattle mix and the leaf, the stalk, which I actually showed you. And also we found out that the best substrate to inoculum ratio was around 0.5 to 1%. And again, increasing the substrate concentration actually decrease the thing. That is because when you increase the substrate concentration, you are increasing the tolerance, or you're making the bacteria having a higher tolerance limit to the nicotine. So nicotine, again, as you know, is an antibacterial agent. So if you increase the substrate ratio, then you're actually killing the bacteria, and you're getting a lower gas yield. So if you increase the substrate concentration, you end up having you have to sacrifice 50% of your biogas yield. So next industry that we come to is chicken hatchery industry. So again, you have a lot of this chicken hatchery industry in outskirts of Bangalore. So someone approached us to see what can be done with the industry, because this is something which is a huge problem. If I tell you, for every 1 kg of chicken we buy, you are actually generating close to 1 kg of the waste, which includes a lot of the material. So in that industry, when you look at the hatchery industry, for the 1 kg of chicken that you buy, you have a lot of head, feet, skin, crop, gizzard, blood, wing tip. All these things are constituting to your weight, what is called waste. Along with that, you have some amount of feathers, bones, etc. Now, the feathers and bones, yes, you cannot consider it for biogas production, because the bone has no carbon in it. It's just a calcium phosphate structure, and that cannot be degraded. Feathers, again, yes, feathers, hair is something which cannot be biologically or anaerobically degraded. So that's why I've given it in yellow. So the other materials which is given in the blue boxes, yes, it all can be considered for biogas generation. So we did some biogas, as I told you, like earlier, we just did some thing to find out whether how much gas can be generated. Okay, so now one important aspect which I have to explain here, you would have heard there are a lot of industries in Hyderabad and all that who's converting the chicken waste into biogas. But there's a difference in process, how they are doing and we are doing. So how the existing industry does is they will have to cook all these waste. That is all your waste that is generated, head, feet, skin, everything. You'll have to cook it, and then the cooked material is fed into a biogas plant. So whereas we have not cooked any material or done any pre-treatment, heat treatment, nothing. Whatever comes out of your industry as it is, we try to see whether it can be used as a substrate for biogas production. And the last one, I've given it in a red box. We actually got something like 600 to 700, and based on your substrate, you can get something between 100 to 700 liters per kg of this material that is used from various parts of the chicken. And we also analyzed the methane and carbon dioxide yield, because why we did that in this case was because this has a lot of protein based material. So we wanted to see whether there's an inhibition due to the protein content, because again, ammonia is an inhibitor to the bacteria. So we also checked the methane content, carbon dioxide content, and we saw that yes, 16 to 70% methane can be achieved with this biogas yield. And it can be done either with a single substrate, or we also did some experiments with the combined substrate. That is what happens when we use all this material put together. So yes, thank you. And this was some of the few industries that I just could get my hands on to show you how we have used this science and engineering to solve problems of some of the industries. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for this particular informative session on uh, the product recovery from agricultural as well as leaf biomass waste. Dear participants, you can, if you have any queries, you can ask ma'am orally. Anupama ma'am, are you there? Someone has posted a this thing question. Are these methods economically viable?
Yeah, okay. So yes, it is viable, and we would be installing the first biogas plant for tobacco waste in the ITC factory in some time from by the end of this month, somewhere on August to or September first week, it would be commissioned in ITC. So that is one economical one. And when we look at the first one was sugarcane industry. Yes, sugarcane we are working currently working with some farmers and trying to kind of do the mushroom cultivation and all that. But the mushroom cultivation we have already done it for commercially in Maldives for one of the two resorts in Maldives. We have already done that. The chicken hatchery waste somehow it didn't. Even though we did these experiments, we still haven't got a working model or anything of that. I think I have answered that question.
Uh, it's a question from my side, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any videos or pictures of the plants which are being already established in India as well as in Maldives?
Yeah, so I have that. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, ma'am, sure.
Can you view my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this technology, we also got some great awards and all that. The Indian Biogas Association has given us the best technology award, and we are also evaluated by World Bank, and World Bank is funding us to do some projects in Maldives for the local islands. And we have got some funding also from Karnataka startup Elevate 100 and all that. So I'll just will not do this, but I'll just take you to some of the pictures. So yeah, this is a 1.5 ton biogas plant that is installed in a resort, Riti Faro Resort in Maldives. And 1.5 tons is food waste, and another 100 kg they have put separately for not agricultural residue, but they have this garden waste and pruning waste and all that. So the liquid that comes out from that, they are trying to do mushroom cultivation, not trying to do, they cultivate mushrooms, and the mushroom is served to all the guests as a premium product because it's a organically done in-house grown product. So this is a 1.5 ton plant, and this is another 500 kg plant, which is in another resort, Riti Beach Resort. And this is a 250 kg plant again, that is a food waste fed plant. This is in Bangalore, it's in Tannery Road. So there is this garment factory called Indian Designs, and they wanted to do something as a part of their CSR activity. And what they're doing is they're collecting food waste from in and around Tannery Road from 4 5 restaurants, feeding it into this biogas plant and using this gas for cooking in their canteen. So they require something like 8 kg LPG equivalent per day. So they completely shifted to biogas cooking from LPG. This is a 250 kg plant which we have installed in a farm in Hunsur. Now, the farm here we are talking about is out of grid. They don't have any electricity. So they wanted some kind of a power so that they can run agricultural farms. So what we did was we put this plant, and but they didn't have any residue as such left with them. So they are growing napier grass. Napier grass is something which has a very fast growing cycle. So every 90 days, you can get one full crop cycle. So they grow that in a small piece of land, cut it, feed it into the biogas plant, and use this generator to generate electricity, and they are generating electricity to run some 4-5 agricultural pumps. So they're completely out of the grid, and it's like a self-sustaining system what they are using. These are some old plants. Some more new plants are there which I don't have it, which is one is very close to your college. We have done one plant in 80 feet road, just opposite to the CM's house. There's an apartment called Bosch Apartment, BOSCHS, Bosch Apartment. And they are converting their food waste and all the waste that's generated from apartments. Around 70 apartments are there, and the waste that's generated they are converting to electricity and using it for their common area lighting. So by doing so they are actually saving, with just like 90 kgs of waste every day, their saving is around 3,000 to 4,000 rupees of the electricity bill. So there are some more plants which we have done. We have also now recently, the recent one that we have completed is in Kidwai Cancer Memorial Hospital. So we have done a 500 kg plant for them for their food waste, and the gas that is generated again is converted to electricity. And here they are using it to charge their buggies. Buggies are used for transportation of these patients in and around the campus to various departments. So they're charging the buggies using the power that's generated from the biogas plant. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any pictures on the last 3 installations, but these are some of the photos.
Madam,
Yes, yes, sir.
see, one of your slide you mentioned about farmers' income, it will increase
All right.
when the waste is converted into the useful product.
Yes,
But that conversion, it requires infrastructure, machinery or something like that. It is required.
right.
Simply, yeah. So whatever the income you have mentioned, it is over and above the infrastructure.
No, so we also do a return on investment calculation, and we show you. I have not included that on the slide. So the return on investment is more than 33 to 45%. So basically, within 2 to 3 years, you recover the cost, whatever you have put or invested in this kind of a system.
That is important. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other participants want to ask any queries?
Yes, madam, I am Dr. Rajkumar Ichin, Professor in Data Engineering, BMSIT, Bangalore.
Yes, sir.
Madam, many in the market is concerned, there are many very compacted biogas plants have come.
Mm-hmm.
So, with respect to that, what is the area required in your reactor is concerned? What is the area which we need to occupy? Suppose if your institution is concerned, if
Okay.
you want to establish.
All right. So, more than looking at the area, something which I didn't explain or didn't tell initially is that this is the only biogas technology which does not require any moving parts. Moving parts in the sense, any compact or any existing biogas plant that you have in the market today requires you to make a chutney of the waste. So you have to pulverize the waste. When you pulverize, you need water, you need electricity. And one major problem with all the plants is that this shredder, or the so-called shredder, is like not working most of the times. So that is one thing which is not there in our plants. We just feed the waste as it is. There's no chutney making, pulverizing, or anything of that sort. Now, coming back to your question, if you have something like a 500 kg waste, we are talking about just a 7 meters by 3.5 meters of land that is required to process a 500 kg plant material, 500 kg per day processing of waste.
How about the operation and maintenance cost?
Right, good question, sir. So when we look at other plants or even composting, you know that a lot of manpower is required. In our plants, no manpower or zero manpower is required. What we want is we want someone to just come and dump the waste. So in this apartment that I was talking about, which we have installed right here in 80 feet road, just opposite to MSRIT, there the security guard is just dumping the waste. Of course, is collected, and there's housekeeping who will come and bring it. They just dump it into the reactor. Other than that, we don't require any labor of anything of that sort.
And what about the environmental conditions, whether it is suits for all the, suppose in the cold regions and all, how
Yeah.
the weather is there?
Yes. Nice question, sir. Again, to prove that, I don't have the picture, but we are going to install one in Himachal Pradesh with the Himachal Pradesh government. There the temperature goes. So in Bangalore or anywhere in South India, you don't need a heating coil system. Okay. But when I look at something like Himachal Pradesh, where it is snowing, only for some 4 months, we do a external heating of the reactor, and that heat is generated from the gas that is generated that is the biogas. So it's a total complete what is it called, cycle. The biogas that you're generating will be used for heating the plant. Around 30% of the biogas that you're generating is used for heating up the plant.
How about the hydrogen sulfide, which is releasing from the biogas, that which is causing a nuisance, that is a bad smell? How it is taken care in the reactor, madam?
Yes. So hydrogen sulfide, there are basically, now we are looking at three technologies or three different types of removal. One is a normal iron filings method, which we do for very small plants. So what we do is we use iron filings. So iron reacts with hydrogen sulfide to form ferrous sulfide. So that will give you that green color material. So you will have to use this iron powder that you get as a part of this industry. So you can fill it up and then use it. Second is using something called as a candle wax. Candle wax is for moisture, not for hydrogen sulfide. Second type that we are looking at is a bacterial process, but this is feasible when you have a large quantities. So there is a specific bacterial cultures which will produce sulfur from hydrogen sulfide. So it's a very small, I mean, it's not a complicated process, but the only thing is it's not feasible because the hydrogen sulfide that you're looking at in a small plant is what, a maximum of 200 ppm. It does not go beyond that. So the quantity is the processing is feasible only when you have large quantities. So we have some specialized cultures which will convert the hydrogen sulfide to sulfide. Now sulfide, pure sulfide, is a lot more valuable than any of the materials. So when you have a large quantity, you can create sulfur from this hydrogen sulfide using a complete biological process.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your clarification.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Any other participants have any questions? Ma'am, I had one question.
Yes.
What about the retention time for the waste which has been put up for anaerobic digestion?
Every substrate has a different retention time. So that is how we kind of succeed when we compare to other biogas plants. We don't have something like a standard retention time.
No,
It
I'm
is
talking about with respect to localities, regions, different regions.
regions. It's not region specific. It is not based on a region specific. It is only based on the substrate.
Okay.
Region specific is only you're looking at the climate conditions, and that is controlled or to match what you have in Bangalore or what you have in a typical good climate that we call. So the gas is used only to give us slight, what is it called, heating to the reactor, so that your process is not altered. But nothing happens with the retention time and your climate conditions.
And you talked about the tobacco, ma'am.
Yes.
You got 5 products as end products. So how did you get them? What was the process involved?
No, no, it's not 5 products. The 5, what I showed you is a 5 type of waste that is generated in the industry. Okay. So the byproducts that we are looking at is only 3 or 4 as of now. The one that we are going to install, we are just looking at biogas and some compost recovery. But there is something advanced that we are looking out at is the liquid that comes out. We might be looking at extracting some amount of nicotine that is remaining in the digester liquid.
Madam, that gas what you're producing is used only for cooking, or can we use it for automobile also?
So far, my last few plants, we have installed is only for electricity. I mean, cooking is only for that Tannery Road plant that I already told you. In Kidwai Cancer Memorial Hospital, this Bosch apartment, everything is used for electricity generation. On a larger scale, sir, if you have 5 tons, 10 tons and all, it's more economically viable to use to convert it to CNG and liquid solid carbon dioxide. That is separating the biogas to methane and then compressing it to form CBG. It's called compressed biogas. So the government has come up. Our government is actually, promoting a lot of this compressed biogas plants, and they have a fixed rate and of 46 rupees per kg, and look asking all the industries to shift to the CBG, compressed biogas.
Mhm. So nowadays these electric vehicles are coming.
Mhm.
So if we generate this electricity from these waste,
Mhm.
maybe that can be used for vehicles
Yes,
in
yes.
large scale.
Yeah, large scale. Some small scale, we are doing it in Kidwai Hospital. You have this buggies that's used for transportation of patients from one block to other block. So,
Okay.
but we are actually recharging the buses using the electricity that is generated on the campus.
Thank you. Nice.